Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. Please stand and join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call.
Commissioner Powers.
Here.
Commissioner Hauge.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Dahlgren.
Here.
Commissioner Herzog.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, welcome everyone to today's Planning Commission meeting. It's open to in-person attendance and may also be observed online through the Placer County website. In an effort to encourage the public to engage in the process, our public comment for this meeting will be offered in person and through a remote virtual process. Citizens who wish to comment virtually today should be prepared to comment via the Zoom platform. To join online, click on the link on the Planning Commission's homepage. Please make sure your microphone is muted. You may also call in using our toll-free number to hear the meeting at 888-788-0099, or you may call 877-853-5247. And please enter the webinar ID number, which is 823-5383-7143, and press *6 to mute yourself. If you'd like to make any public comment virtually, please raise your hand with the hand icon at the bottom of the page. If you're calling in, please press *9 to raise your hand. Please be prepared to speak at the time I open public comment, which could be public comment for matters not on the agenda, a consent item, or a timed item. If attending in person today, we kindly request that once you've commented on your item, return to your seat or leave the hearing room through the exit-only door to accommodate for physical distancing and allow others to provide comment. Each commenter is entitled to 3 minutes. Thank you for your patience as we work to preserve the safety and health of all meeting participants and to ensure that each citizen who wishes to comment has the opportunity to do so. Let's go ahead and move on to the Planning Director's report, EJ. Well, should we do roll call again? I think Commissioner DiMattei showed up.
Here.
Okay. Very good.
All right, thank you, Chairman. Good morning, E.J. Valdi with the Planning Services Division. For today, I just have calendaring items to bring up. Board meetings, the next board meeting is July 12th. The board's going to be taking up 2 appeals that came before your commission, the Giarita variance appeal and also the Sorensen variance appeal. That's on July 12th. And then our next Planning Commission meeting is actually, I believe, 3 weeks out, so get a little extra week in between. We have 4 items right now for that agenda: Auburn equipment rental, it's a rezone and general plan amendment. The beekeeping ordinance, we'll be bringing that for you to take action on. The zoning text amendments, the round for this year, and then also we have a code enforcement abatement item on that agenda. So pretty full agenda for the 14th. And that's all I have this morning.
Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead and move on to opening public comment for items not on the agenda. Anyone here in person wish to speak on anything that's not on our agenda today? Anyone online? Okay, we're going to move on. We're going to close public comment for items not on the agenda. We'll go ahead and move to our consent agenda item list. Would any commissioners like to remove any items from consent agenda? I think I need to remove the minutes, right? So we can vote on it separately.
You can certainly do that, or I think you were indicating you may abstain from the minutes.
Only
so
the minutes
also,
in my
you
vote?
can also note that in the vote,
Okay.
too.
Okay.
Well, I can make a motion to approve.
Before we do that, sorry, I'm going to ask if the public would like to remove any items from the agenda or from the consent agenda list. Anyone from the public? Anyone online? Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. I'll make a motion to approve the consent items.
I'll second that. Oh, go ahead. Go on.
That was DiMattei for a second. DiMattei.
Commissioner Powers,
Aye.
Commissioner Hauge,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner DiMattei,
Yes.
Commissioner Dahlgren,
Yes.
Commissioner Herzog.
I'm going to vote yes with an abstention from the minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to our first timed item. The Buck Salvage Parcel Map Modification, an appeal of the Parcel Review Committee's denial of a parcel map modification. Members of the public may now raise their hands, press star 9 if you are calling in, to begin queuing in for public comment on this item, which will not begin until the item presentation is complete. Bennett?
Thank you. I am Bennett Smithart with the Planning Services Division. And the next item today is the continuance of the Buck Savage Parcel Map Modification Appeal hearing. Just going over an overview of our past hearing. So the project site is located at 6085 Seven Cedars Place in Granite Bay, which is about 200 feet east of the intersection of Roseville Parkway and Barton Road. The request at hand, the property owner / appellant is seeking a parcel map modification to update the location of the 100-year floodplain and riparian protection area, labeled on the Feather River 75 parcel map information sheet with current field data, which would reduce the size of the protection area. The zoning administrator denied the modification request on February 17th, 2022, and the owner appealed that decision. So just a recap of our last hearing in front of your commission. The appellant requested the item be continued originally. The appellant had a conflict and wanted to go to the June 23rd meeting. The Planning Commission turned down the continuance request and proceeded with the appeal hearing. Staff presented an overview of the appeal, and comment was received from one member of the public. The Planning Commission took action to tentatively uphold the appeal and approve the parcel map modification, and directed staff to prepare findings and conditions of approval in support of the modification request. So staff has prepared conditions of approval and findings, and we're going to go over those now. So CEQA, the project is categorically exempt from environmental review pursuant to Section 15305 of the California Environmental Quality Act and Section 183670 of the Placer County Environmental Review Ordinance, and this is minor alterations to land use limitations. Next is the findings. Pursuant to Government Code Section 66472, amending a final map, staff finds that there are changes in circumstances, including new base flood elevations from the FEMA flood insurance rate map and the flood insurance study for the Linda Creek. That was effective November 2nd, 2018, and it includes the engineered ground survey and the 2021 Marcus H. Boyle and Associates biological study, which looked at the riparian habitat that make the 100-year floodplain and riparian protection area as applied on the map and shown on the information sheet no longer appropriate or necessary. The next finding, these modifications do not impose any additional burden on the fee owners of real property, and the modifications do not alter any title, right, interests, and real property reflected in the recording map, and in particular, no changes are being proposed to the floodplain and riparian limits on parcel 2 of the parcel map. And Placer County finds the map is modified, conforms to the Subdivision Map Act. Next, the third one, the proposed modification to the parcel map is consistent with all applicable provisions of Placer County Code, Chapter 16, and all applicable provisions of other chapters in this code. 4, the proposed modifications are consistent with the applicable policies and requirements of the Placer County General Plan and the Granite Bay Community Plan. 5, the proposed modification will be consistent with the character of the immediate neighborhood and will not be contrary to its orderly development. 6, the proposed modification will not generate a volume of traffic beyond the design's capacity of all roads providing access to the parcel. And lastly, 7, the proposed modification to the parcel map will not have an adverse effect on the adjacent or surrounding property owners because it will not generate significant amounts of noise, traffic, odor, dust, vibration, or other disruptions that will be incompatible with the nearby residential uses. So therefore, staff recommends that we find the project categorically exempt from environmental review pursuant to provisions of Section 15305 of the California Environmental Act guidelines and Section 183670 of the Placer County Environmental Review Ordinance, and that's Class 5 minor alterations to land. And 2, uphold the appeal filed by Mr. Morehouse and reject the zoning administrator's denial of the parcel map modification, subject to the conditions of approval and findings contained in the staff report. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Bennett. We'll allow questions for staff at this point from the commission. Anything at this point? Okay, let's go ahead and thank you. We'll move on to the appellant. Is Mr. Morehouse here? Would you like to come up and? Okay.
Hello. Thank you. I am the property owner. I just wanted to, I put in the packet on the appeal from the last time, there was Mr. Masha is making claims of illegal fill dirt, but the pictures that I showed, the illegal fill dirt was on his side of the fence, and he has created the wetlands. So, and also that he was the engineer that did the original map, and he's got a self-interest in having a view out the back, is what he said. So I just wanted to make point when he says that, and then the dirt and all that is from the private owner, so I feel like I'm getting discriminated against from the prior ownership. So I just wanted to make that, I refer back to the original, the last appeal that I did on the pictures.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have questions for Mr. Morehouse? No. Okay. Okay, thank you. We'll call you back up needed. Let's open it up for public comment. And we'll start with here in person. Yeah, please come up. We don't have a list, right, EJ? Just, okay, come on up, Mr. Masha.
Good morning. I'm John Marshall. I'm the property owner to the east of this parcel. Just want to make sure that a few items is clear on the Planning Commission. The past violations of 21 years is quite relevant to this case. They brought the fill, they filled the floodplain, and now they're saying it's out of the floodplain. It really doesn't make sense. This staff saying that the past violation has been taken care of is a false statement. I have submitted plenty of evidence that although the chop shop operation and all those stuff were removed from the property, but not even one shovel of dirt was removed out of that parcel in question. I have written periodically for the past 20 years, written letters to staff and directors that yes, although the court ordered all the cars and chop shop operation were moved, but illegal fill were never removed. And I required that the illegal dirt also to be removed and the area to be restored with the engineering restoration plan, which was never done. So that's where the record map states no disturbances. As of today, no disturbances is allowed. And the staff testified before you that it's about, a foot of fill, yes, it's been brought in, but that's illegal. As a result of illegal grading, my property is, the runoff is diverted to my property and ponds next to my boundary and creates mosquito hazard. Now, we have requested, now let's go to Subdivision Map Act. I have submitted to you the Rick Erie's letter. The Subdivision Map Act doesn't allow this, this modification. It says any modification that causes burden on a fee owner of the parcel, which I'm an owner, I own a parcel, is not allowed. See, I built my house towards the back because in the front is a sewer easement. I purchased the property based on how it is at that time, 20 years ago. Now, I wouldn't have built the house if I knew that map is going to change. You never know what's going to happen from now on. For the past 21 years, actually, the county, EJ can testify, the county had leverage from the previous owner in the court and everything that, yeah, you have your operation inside the floodplain. And that leverage caused them to move out. If they didn't have that leverage, the owner would have told the staff to just take a hike, you see. And then, you know, I think you ought to consider the past violations. What happened there was a nightmare. And if
Thank
somebody...
you, Mr. Masha. We read your position on that.
Okay, and then the last thing, if Mr. Morehouse purchased the property 3-4 years ago, I made sure everything was disclosed to him, what's happening to him, what's happening to this property, and he sympathized with me. He said he's gonna make it right to me. And everything was through disclosures, and I told him that the boundary, there need to be a ditch to dig so the water is not diverted on my property. So he purchased the property the way he is. There is no evidence of anybody come and say, well, 20 years ago the map wasn't right or illegal. I had 2 grading permits when I did grading on my property, and those could also be submitted. So I'm rejecting, I plead to you to reject this map modification, uphold Board of Supervisors' decision last 3 years ago, and uphold the zoning administrator's decision.
Thank you for your
That's
time.
what I'm pleading.
Thank you. Any other people from the public wish to speak on this item? No. We'll go ahead and close public comment. Ben, anything to address from staff?
There was no new information.
Okay.
So we previously addressed items that were
Okay.
brought up.
Okay, thank you. I just want to also ask the appellant if he has any more to share.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize that I did pull the permits for Mr. Mosh's property. He pulled 2 for 850 cubic yards of dirt. I've had experts say there's probably 3,000 to 5,000 cubic yards of dirt. He was the engineer for that development. He's the one who drew the map. If you look at the pictures in there, his land, his piece was like a swampland. He bought the property after everything was done, and he moved in the fill dirt. That's when he took ownership of it. He rerouted, and you can see over time in the pictures, rerouted the wetlands through my property at the time. So I don't know how he drew the maps on. FEMA says it's fine, it's out of the floodplain. It started where I just wanted to have a fence to keep the coyotes out and do solar. Mr. Masha said if I hired him to do the engineering on the solar, it would be no problem. I wanted to push it back so I didn't have to remove trees. So it's what he did on the map I don't think would be done now, and it's suspicious. So, but the fill dirt that he brought in, those pictures are evident. They weren't shown before. There's a lot of fill dirt brought in, over 850 cubic yards for sure. That's all he has permits for.
Question? Question, sir?
Mr. Morehouse, I think Commissioner has a question for you. Do you mind?
Okay, he's talking about, just a minute here.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. He was making reference to water draining from your property onto his property. And have you looked at or addressed that issue, or is it an issue?
No, it's not an issue for, when I first moved in, he hit me up wanting me to pay for money for everything and things that he wanted done. I didn't understand what the circumstances were. After seeing those pictures, there was no water. So there's a drainage pipe on my side of the property that goes down. He wants me to trench it all the way down because he doesn't like that it puddles down to back towards part of his property. But if you look at the property, he rerouted all of the water, and there's some pictures showing that after he started bringing in the fill dirt, it all came down on my side of the property. Originally, it was on his. But as he changed it over time, but he also goes around, and the neighbors on the other side, he forced them when they're selling the house to put a closure over their pool filter. He's, the neighbor up the street, he tells them that, he wants to put a new fence up that he's not allowed to use. He thinks he owns the neighborhood. He's like the neighborhood bully, and he tries to get benefits to his property. When he was on my property, the reason he doesn't want this to be done is because he doesn't want me or anybody else in the future to be able to build a guest house back there because he doesn't block his view. So this is just for him to keep the view. He's had, realtors saying it will hurt the value. I've never heard of anybody adding value to a home that's going to hurt the property values of the surrounding area. I put a lot of money into this house. It's clean. Prior ownership was not me. I just want to be able to keep the gate up and put some solar out there in the yard and use that piece just like everybody else. His fence is there, but he has a barn right up against it. The neighbors do, but I can't. It just doesn't make any sense. So I've had the two disparate experts. FEMA, everybody says it's not a problem. It's just Mosh is the one that's got the problem with it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Question a minute. Supervisors, why did they deny this project in the past? What was their findings?
So the, do we have those listed? I can summarize I can summarize. So it was 2019, it went to the Board of Supervisors, and I believe there was a conversation of, they didn't believe the biologist report, that it wasn't what it stated it was going to be, and that there was all the previous code violations with the chop shop. They agreed that Mr. Masha suffered a lot, so I think they favored the appellant at the time, Mr. Masha, and took his recommendation in his appeal, upheld his appeal.
I have a question for you.
Yes. Sorry.
It went to court apparently, then the court case made the chop shop remove, that's what Mr. Masha said.
Yeah, I believe it was bankruptcy court. I didn't really.
Okay, because he was saying that the judge didn't order an engineering restoration plan, but in bankruptcy court, they wouldn't do that.
Yes, that's my understanding. I'm not I've seen the document, but I'm not a legal expert, so I wasn't sure the details of that
Thank you.
particular case.
That legal action did not involve the county either, so would have been a private matter.
Thanks, Bennett. We'll bring it back to the commission now for discussion, motion.
Brief discussion is looking at the evidence. One, the county has testified before us that the previous violations before this owner owned the property were resolved and taken care of. And so I don't believe they're part of this decision right now. The prior map, I don't know on the floodplain was FEMA. I think that might have been engineered. Now we have a FEMA map, and I think I would prefer to use a FEMA map as the guidelines. And I don't see that this has any direct effect on the neighboring property, pursuant to the subdivision ordinance or the code that was brought up. So, and definitely when it comes to property value or visual, the county has no requirements to protect individual properties' visual requirements or visual and views. So I'm ready to move forward with this.
The only comment I have is I did walk the property. The only issue, and Mr. Morehouse brought this up, that he does have a pipe on his property, and it does, it's like it stops where it probably should be trenched, maybe another 50 yards. didn't measure it for sure, but it looks like it could pool and go into the neighbor's yard. But that was the only issue I saw as I personally walked the field. And, with my experience of drainage and ditches and stuff like that, I think that may have to be fixed. Other than that, I would be in favor of moving on with maybe that attached to it, that has to be fixed if possible. That's about it. That was my findings when I went there.
I guess, it seems to me that's an issue that, I mean, we're not gonna be the engineers on a pipe here, but I think that's an issue that the two property owners have to meet on and resolve somehow, if that is really something that's an issue. So I'm ready to move on too.
Yeah, I just brought it up because I saw it and I walked it, so you could see there's a little bit of elevation change where the water can pool, but again, that's just what I went to go see. I'm just a farmer, not an engineer, so, and probably right, it probably has to go be dealt with between the two neighbors and be settled, and we can move on.
I guess, I would also like to make a comment, I guess, that I understand the visual concern that you have, and that's something that needs to be worked out between the property owners too, but it's not something that the planning commission can really deal with. I guess you need to be aware that as long as the property owner next door is operating within the zoning ordinance and the other ordinances, he's got the opportunity to build what he needs to build there. So that would be something that you need to work out together.
And I'd like to comment that Mr. Masha needs to understand that Mr. Morehouse is not responsible for the activities of the prior property owner. If there was no court order for an engineering or environmental restoration program, that is now Mr. Morehouse's problem.
I'd like to make a motion that we find the project as categorically exempt from the environmental review pursuant to provisions of Section 15305 of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines and Section 183670 of the Placer County Environmental Review Ordinance, Class 5, minor alterations to land.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Let's do a roll call vote.
I have a first from Commissioner Hauge and a second from Commissioner Powers. Commissioner Powers,
Aye.
Commissioner Hauge,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner DiMattei,
Yes.
Commissioner Dahlgren,
Yes.
Commissioner Herzog.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'd like to second move that we uphold the appeal filed by Mr. Morehouse and reject the zoning administrator's denial of the parcel map modification, subject to the conditions of approval and findings contained in the staff report. And
Second. Sorry.
and I just wanted to say, Benton, those findings are excellent. Thank you.
Second.
First and a second. Let's do a roll call vote.
I have a first from Commissioner Hauge, second from Commissioner Powers. Commissioner Powers,
Aye.
Commissioner Hauge,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner DiMattei,
Yes.
Commissioner Dahlgren,
Yes.
Commissioner Herzog.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just want to note that the decision of the Planning Commission may be appealed by anyone who appeared at today's hearing and provided comment, or anyone that submitted written comments on this item. An appeal must be filed within 10 days of today's date and shall be accompanied by a filing fee of $641. Okay, let's move on to our second timed item, Sierra College Self-Storage Conditional Use Permit. Members of the public may now raise their hands, press star 9 if you're calling in. To begin queuing in for public comment, which will not begin until the item presentation is complete, Chris Schmidt, Principal Planner, will be presenting on this item. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you and good morning, Mr. Chairman Herzog and Commissioners. Chris Schmidt, the Planning Services Division. Application before you today is for a use permit for a self-storage facility in Granite Bay. The applicant is Sierra College Douglas Partners. So the project site is northeast of the intersection of Douglas and Sierra College Boulevard. It encompasses 2.83 acres. It originally was 2 parcels. The northern parcel, 1.68 acres, was a equipment rental business for the longest time. And the second parcel south of it, a little over an acre, is vacant. This is a picture of the project site today. The former rental buildings have been demolished. Oh, looks like we got out of order here. And this is what it looked like a couple years ago with the Neff rental buildings intact. So the entitlement before you is a conditional use permit to construct a mini storage facility in the commercial plan development zoning district. There have been some changes since the project was originally approved. The unit count of the self-storage facility has gone up by 8 units, and the office space proposed has gone down by about 30 square feet. So just minor changes to the original project. Zoning on the site, commercial plan development, north and south. Office professional, southeast of the project on the south side of Douglas Boulevard. Residential properties to the east are residential single-family, minimum building site of 20,000 square feet. And on the west side of the street is City of Roseville, zoned commercial. So a little bit of the project history. The self-storage project before you with those minor changes was approved by the Planning Commission in April of 2020. There was an expiration date of April 9th, 2022. The applicant inadvertently let the project expire prior to that date, so we're before you today asking for a reapproval. The applicant has made much progress since 2020, approved the lot merger, or completed the lot merger to merge the 2 parcels to the project site you see before you today. Buildings were demolished. They did obtain a tree permit for 3 trees that were on the site. Their building plans have been approved, but have not been issued pending approval of the use permit. And they're very close to having their improvement plans done. So they're ready to start work as soon as they can. So here's the site plan that's proposed. Site coverage is nearly 50%. There's a maximum of 50% coverage in the CPD zoning district. It's full access to Sierra College Boulevard on the west. 2 gates to keep the public out of the self-storage facility. 1 on the east and 1 on the west. The gate on the eastern portion of the site is exit only, and that was done at the request of neighbors living off of Cavett-Stallman Road. And then there's full access from the south out to either Sierra College Boulevard or Cavett-Stallman Road. Look at the project design. The main building is 3 stories, the one on the right. Another look from the east. So this is the view from Cavett-Stallman Road, but you won't see all this because there's an existing commercial building in front of that. So back when this project was originally submitted in 2018 and went to the MAC, the original proposal was for Dutch Brothers along Sierra College Boulevard and the self-storage in the back. As you know, Dutch Brothers is very popular, and sometimes their car queue length in their drive-through can be 20 or 30 cars. We looked at a bunch of options of how to queue those cars on that small parcel up front, and it just wouldn't fit. So project was revised to be all self-storage. Dutch Brothers dropped out of the project. So the new application was received in August of 2018, or received in August 2018 for the big project. They revised it in summer of 2019. So what is being proposed is 110,000 square feet of self-storage space, 729 storage units, a mix of 1 and 3 one-story buildings and a 3-story building in the center, a corporate office for superior storage in the back, and the facility office in the front along Sierra College Boulevard, a total of 2,400 square feet of office space. Another look at the project design. The project does comply with the Granite Bay Community Plan's design guidelines for commercial properties, and I won't go through all these, but it meets or exceeds the expectations for commercial projects in Granite Bay. Height is always an issue. There's not many 3-story buildings in Granite Bay. Maximum height in the zoning district is 50 feet. They're proposing 38 feet. And for reference, the Walgreens south of the project site The three-story tower portion of that building is 29 feet. And you can see that here. And it should be noted that the three-story building, Building C, is located at the center of the property, surrounded by commercial properties or developed commercial properties. So the visibility of that three-story building is really going to be blocked. So parking was an issue. Our zoning ordinance does require one parking space per 1,500 square feet, and also one space per 300 square feet of office space. So for the offices, the project requires 8 spaces. For the mini storage facility, a total of 74 spaces. But that standard is really geared towards your single story, where you drive up to your roll-up door and unload. Easy to meet your parking requirement on those type of facilities. We don't have many multi-story self-storage facilities, which this is proposing. So our zoning ordinance does allow you to provide a parking analysis or a parking study to show that you don't need as many spaces. And based on industry standards and also other self-storage facilities in the region, 74 spaces is definitely not needed. Then based on a facility in Folsom, just 11 spaces would be needed for this project if we held to their guidelines. And this project itself has 21 spaces near the offices and also parking near the self-storage units. And then a loading zone on the north side of Building C. So we do believe it's adequately parked. There's some operations info, office hours 9 to 6, Monday through Saturday, 9 to 5 on Sunday. Gate access for a limited number of rentals would be 24 hours. Employees, just 1.5 employees on site for the facility daily, including 1 full-time manager and 1 part-time manager. And we did look at vehicle miles traveled based on the existing use. We can deem this project to meet the county thresholds. So it would result in additional trips, but it does meet our threshold of no more than 110 average daily trips. This project, based upon the existing or the former use, this was a net increase of 93 trips per day. And in relation to other commercial projects, self-storage use is probably the lowest traffic generating commercial use you can imagine. So we did prepare a mitigating neg deck in 2020 that was adopted with the original approval. We prepared an addendum based on new CEQA guidelines. So we did talk about the VMT analysis. We referenced the unit counts change and also the reduction in office space, and noted that the tree mitigation was already completed. There's no new significant impacts with those revisions. We did take it back to the Granite Bay MAC in June 1st. There were some issues raised by one neighbor and the MAC itself. Talked about traffic and cumulative traffic impacts of all the development happening in Granite Bay. Whether a 3-story building was appropriate. Had some questions about the building colors, the setbacks, and how visible that 3-story building would be from adjacent properties. Some questions about the lighting proposed and also signage. The MAC did recommend approval 6-0 with 1 member absent. They did make some recommendations of potential conditions for the project. That exterior lighting be shielded to reduce glare. That's already a condition of approval. That's condition of approval 21. Also that signage meet community plan standards and not be permitted on east-facing building facades. So there was concern that the signs would face Cabot Stallman and could be an annoyance. So we did add that condition of approval 71 to prohibit that signage. And then landscaping be used to screen the 3-story building, and that was in the original proposal and landscape plans prepared by the applicant. So with that, staff recommends you adopt the addendum to the 2020 initial study of mitigated neg deck and the mitigation monitoring mitigation monitoring and reporting program prepared for the project, which is an attachment E. And also approve the conditional use permit to allow a mini storage facility in the commercial plan development zoning district. And these are both subject to the findings and conditions of approval found in the staff report packet, which is attachment D. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chris. Commissioners, questions for staff? Okay, we'll let you know.
One question, sorry. At gate 2, that would be exit only, and that would be into the Walgreens parking lot?
Yeah, everything on that corner is under one ownership, but there's all kinds of access easements across there. So yes, it's onto there's a public access easement that goes east to west. So yes.
So the landowner who owns Walgreens owns this piece of property as
And
well?
I believe they're selling that off, correct?
Okay, that's it, thank you.
All right, thanks, Chris. Is someone from the applicant here? Okay, would you like to come up and share?
Morning, council members. Dave Condelt, 6370 Wells Avenue, Loomis, and owner of Superior Self Storage.
Anything to add on the project?
Well, I just think it's important to know that we have had a pretty good track history of building projects in the surrounding communities, also in El Dorado Hills of late. And the reason we're before you is obviously the oversight of the 2-year due date or termination date of the use permit. But really, we've been bogged down in the engineering department for whatever reason. We've had our building plans approved over a year and some of the other subsequent plans. So we're right there. I think to a great deal, we had the prior developments built some 20 years ago, and we're held to a certain water quality standard or water volume standard. And our parcel, having been an F Rentals in operation for 60 plus years, was kind of a standalone property. Now that we've developed in the form of a PD, we've had some real, I guess, difficulties getting the storm drain to coexist with the existing storm drain. But we've since made measures on behalf of the civil engineer to accommodate the county, and I anticipate getting a written approval here any day. So.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant?
You had mentioned, Christopher had mentioned employee and staffing. Are you gonna have staffing there 24 hours? And is there accommodations for somebody to live on this property?
No, there's no residents on site, so the hours of operations will be roughly 9 to 6. The facilities of late have become real systematic with all the alarms and the cameras and whatnot. So we have facilities of various 3 stories throughout, and there's keypads and entries which kind of record who's on site. So no employees beyond 6 o'clock.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and open it up for public comment. Anyone in the audience here wish to speak on this item? Is there someone online? Okay. Okay, we'll go ahead and close public comment. There's no additional items that I think staff would need to address, or the applicant. So let's bring it back to the commission for discussion and a motion.
I'll just make a motion. That works. I'll make a motion to adopt the addendum to the 2020 Initial Study Mitigated Negative Declaration and Mitigation Monitoring Program prepared for the project.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Let's do a roll call vote.
I have a first from Commissioner Powers and a second from Commissioner Dahlgren. Commissioner Powers?
Aye.
Commissioner Hauge?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner DiMattei?
Yes.
Commissioner Dahlgren?
Yes.
Commissioner Herzog?
Yes.
Thank you.
And I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit to allow for a mini storage facility in the commercial plan development zoning district, subject to the findings and conditions of approval found in the staff report packet.
I'll second.
First and a second, roll call vote.
I have a first from Commissioner Powers, second from Commissioner Dahlgren. Commissioner Powers?
Aye.
Commissioner Hauge?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner DiMattei?
Yes.
Commissioner Dahlgren?
Yes.
Commissioner Herzog?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to, decision of the Planning Commission may be appealed by anyone who appeared at today's hearing and provided comment, or anyone that submitted written comments on this item. The appeal must be filed within 10 days of today's date. It shall be accompanied by a filing fee of $641. We're going to move on to our third third timed item, housing program update, informational item. Members of the public may now raise their hands, press star 9 for calling in to begin queuing in for this comment, which will not begin until the item presentation is complete. Anne Marie Novotny, did I say that right? Yes. Okay. Housing specialist, and Devin McNally, associate planner, will be presenting on this item.
And also May Robbins.
May Robinson, okay. Excellent.
Well, good morning. And as mentioned earlier, my name is Anne Marie Novotny. I'm the housing specialist with the Community Development Resource Agency. And we were asked to come and give you this presentation. It's a housing program update. We did a presentation to the board back in September. And in the staff report, there was a link to that item. And so I'm going to kind of be going over some of the information we presented to the board so that you're also informed. And then I'll be turning the presentation over to Devin McNally. He's our associate planner in housing. And then also May Robinson is our Civic Spark Fellow in housing for this year. Okay, just to give you a little bit of background. So back in 2017, the County Executive Office formed a multidisciplinary housing team. It's comprised of several different departments, and these are the Chief Executive Office, a Community Development Resource Agency, the Communications and Public Affairs Office, Economic Development, Facilities Management, Health and Human Services, Public Works, and also the Real Estate Services. And when this team was formed back in 2017, their primary purposes are to work on finding ways to eliminate barriers to housing construction and also to identify ways to accelerate development of affordable workforce housing. And so starting in 2018, every year they come to the board with an update on the program and then with a proposed work plan for the following fiscal year. Pressing the button and it's not advancing. Oh, there it is. Okay. So just kind of looking back, kind of the big picture. So since 2010, the county actually has provided over $26 million in housing assistance. It's supported the creation of over 466 units of affordable housing. And then we are currently seeking to identify developable sites for about 7,900 new housing units by the year 2029. And I'm going to talk a little bit about just some of the major accomplishments that the housing team has done over this past fiscal year. These are some of the major accomplishments that we've done in advancing affordable housing. We recently there was a dedication event back in May for the opening of the Mercy North Auburn project, which is right here on the campus, and it's a 79-unit affordable housing complex. 5 new affordable housing developments opened last year in the Tahoe Truckee area, adding 288 new units of local workforce housing for low to moderate income families. And then last year, back in June, the board appointed a new totally volunteer housing development advisory task force. And that task force is comprised of folks that have different diversity in housing experience, and they've been meeting over the past year. And they're tasked with identifying and assessing specific parcels that have affordable housing development potential. And in your packet was a booklet that actually May Robinson, who is our Civic Spark Fellow, developed for the workforce housing team for the actual task force and our partners to be able to use when they go on the public. I actually have actual card copies here for you if you'd like them. Is that something that we can hand out at this time, or? Okay. Let me go back.
What is a Civics Sparks Fellow?
I can answer that question. So a Civic Spark Fellow, it's an AmeriCorps program. So there are about 100 fellows statewide. We're kind of distributed to various local agencies, and we're really helping with a variety of issues, mostly community development based or combating climate change. So I'm specifically helping Community Development Resource Agency with housing. So yeah.
And we've been participating in that program for about 4 or 5 years now. So every year we get a new one, and it's been great. It's been a really great. And so it was for the local, it used to be the local, did you mention Local Government Commission, which is now rebranded, now called Civic Well. So we're going to be getting another housing specialist coming on board in September. So it's been really, really great. Okay, so going back to some of our other accomplishments. Also, the last bullet here, the county provided some PLHA program funding, and this is for entitlements and environmental studies to complete the county's Dollar Creek Crossing site, which is an 11-acre property that the county purchased back in 2019. It's near Tahoe City, and we're advancing. The goal is that that site could actually accommodate up to 150 rental or for sale units for the local workforce. Another program that we've been participating in, and we get funding from the state for this. So this is the First-Time Homebuyer Assistance Program, as well as the Workforce Housing Preservation Program. And so back in July of last year, we relaunched the First-Time Homebuyer Assistance Program. We had gotten some additional grant funding from the state, and we currently have 3 qualified applicants that are approved for down payment assistance, and they're actively looking for homes in Placer County. The homes do have to be located within the unincorporated area of the county. So if they're interested in homes that are in the incorporated cities, they would have to reach out to those cities to see if they have a similar program. Devin McNally is our administrator of that program, and he can answer questions about that if you have that as well. We also launched a workforce housing preservation program last July. We currently have 24 qualified applicants, and there are some issues with the home prices. This is primarily up in the Tahoe area, so we're going to be coming back. Actually, Devin will be bringing back revisions to those program guidelines to the board on June 28th. So we want to make some improvements so that we can get more people qualified that can actually purchase homes in the Tahoe area. And then this past May, we held our first sort of affordable housing showcase. It was in recognition of Affordable Housing Month, and we hosted 4 virtual forums. Devin led that effort, and we had 138 people that attended virtually. So these were all webinars. They were all on, I think they were all on the weekends, on a Saturday morning, so we had really good participation. Another member of our team is Megan Schwartz. She's here with us. And she is our customer service coordinator for our accessory homes program, which has become very, very popular. And so these are some major accomplishments in the last year. So we've had over 115 applications submitted. 7 permits have been issued. That doesn't seem right. It's not 7. How many? 79. I'm sorry, the numbers got off there. Looks like 42 were completed in construction. And then one of the webinars that we hosted in May was on building ADUs. That had our best attendance ever. We had over 70 people. It was a very interactive webinar. People had a lot of questions, and Megan was on that call and was great with answering all the questions for those folks. We also have a really great accessory home website that Megan has worked with our communications department putting together. And just since January of this year, we've had over 20,000 hits on that website. Another big thing that we offered this past year is we're offering free master plans of 3 different sizes, and that they're available on the website, and then Megan helps people get the plans. And we're now finding out that people want to maybe get some larger units built. So we're actually working on getting some larger plans available later this summer. Another thing that we work on is policy and code amendments. And one of our big accomplishments, and this is a requirement by the state, about every 8 years we have to update our housing element. And this past cycle, we did a comprehensive update to it, and that was certified by the state in August. It's for the 8-year cycle of 2021 to 2029. Back in December, the board approved a 54% reduction in the Tahoe transportation fee and 50% reduction in fees for deed-restricted affordable housing projects in Tahoe, the Tahoe Transportation Fee District. So again, this is to try to help stimulate more affordable housing being built in the Tahoe area. Back in January of 2021, the board adopted a new affordable housing employee accommodation ordinance and fee. And since that time, through probably just about the end of May, about $175,000 have been collected in those fees. And these fees go into the county's housing trust fund, and as those funds build up, the county will be able to use those funds to accelerate or get construction built for affordable housing. And then Senate Bill 9, which took effect on January 1st, 2022. May is going to talk about that later. We've created an application process for the lot splits. So that's something that we've been working on to deal with that. And then just recently, on June 14th, the board adopted a package of housing-related code amendments that also includes a mixed-use and affordable or multifamily design standards. So that was a pretty big accomplishment, and now we're going to be working on implementing those amendments. I touched a little bit about the housing element. One was pretty good thing for Placer County is we were the first jurisdiction in the Sacramento Area Council of Governments that actually had their housing element adopted by their May 15th, 2021 deadline. And then it was also the first to be certified by the state. And so what happens every cycle is the Sacramento Area Council of Governments has, for their region, they get allocations of how many housing units need to be, how many housing units need to be accommodated over the next planning period. And so they disperse those units throughout the region, and this particular cycle, our allocation is about 7,900 total units. And so that's something that we're shooting for in these different income categories. So there's 4 different income categories. So on that chart, you'll see that out of that 7,900, about 435 are in the Tahoe Basin. The rest are in the western portion of Placer County. And you can see that we need to accommodate a little over 2,000 in the very low income category, about 1,300 in low, about 1,300 in moderate, and then about 3,100 in above moderate. And this particular housing element I mentioned, it was a comprehensive update. It has 7 goals, 58 policies, 23 of which are new, and 49 different implementation programs, again, 28 that are new. So this is a lot of effort, and it's multiple departments are responsible for that. And so every year we have to give an update to the state of how we're progressing. And so in January, the housing team starts reaching out to the different departments of how they're progressing, and by April 1st, we have to submit a report to the state of how we are doing in our implementation. And then we have 20 policies and 12 programs that support affordable housing. So that's a big focal point. And then also 15 programs that are supporting new residential construction. I did want to mention something that we've already looked at, our land inventory, and so we have plenty of land that can accommodate the above moderate and moderate housing, but we have a shortfall of about 1,100 units for the lower income households. And what this is going to do is it's going to require the county is obligated to rezone at least 55 acres that would allow the density of at least 30 units per acre. So that's kind of our area where, we're really kind of trying to focus our efforts on. Okay, and so I mentioned before that every year we have to report to the state. So this past year, since it was our first year of this new housing element, so this is how much we've progressed in meeting that RHNA number. So there were 14 permits issued. There at the low income level, we had 30 at the moderate income level and 424 at the above moderate, for a total of 468 units. So that's what we've accomplished for this first year of this 8-year planning period. And then we also have, we go after grants. So we're always monitoring what funding's available that can leverage or support the county's funding. And so this past year, the county provided $500,000 to Housing Trust Placer, and that was a local match for another grant that they were able to get for the same amount, $500,000 from the state. We also have an Auburn-Bowman Community Plan update that's actively going on, and that was partially funded with about a $330,000 grant from the SACOG Green Means Go program. The board also recently approved a $500,000 allocation in ARPA funding to the Haldeman entities, and this is for sewer improvement costs. And that's for the Gateway Commons subdivision that's in North Auburn. The county received a very, very large sum of funds of $23 million from the state home key funding program, and that is being used to purchase, it's a Roseville hotel that we're going to be able to provide supportive housing for the county's residents that are experiencing homelessness. And then we also, $8 million of the ARPA funds that the county received is being allocated for infrastructure improvements in different parts of the county, again, to accelerate affordable housing construction. And now I'm going to turn the presentation over to Devin, and he's going to tell you about some of the things that we're currently working on this coming year.
Thanks, Ann. Good morning, commissioners. Devin McNally, the Associate Housing Planner. So we have a number of projects and programs in progress. So I'll start with our regional planning efforts and our collaboration with our stakeholders. So last year we joined the Tahoe Truckee Workforce Housing Authority. This is a joint powers authority that's created by the Public Utilities District, the Tahoe Truckee Airport, the Tahoe Hospital District, as well as the County of Nevada and the Town of Truckee. And the goal of that JPA is to get housing developed to meet the needs of our local workers. So we're collaborating with them, working on identifying properties to be built for local worker housing up in the Tahoe area. We also have, as mentioned before, we have a REAP grant to focus on infill housing and multimodal transportation for the Auburn-Bowman community. And so we're doing a community plan update focused on that, and then also creating a Bowman area master plan to really focus in on creating a comprehensive, cohesive community in there. We also have a countywide Placer County mobility and infill acceleration study, and this was paid through a Caltrans grant. And this is looking at reducing greenhouse gases and creating multimodal transit connections that support housing in our existing communities. We also have a number of affordable housing efforts. So this is, I'll start with, we are always looking at land that we can acquire for the county or work with partners to acquire. So one includes working with the California Tahoe Conservancy. They have a number of properties up there. One property is a 1.5 acre parcel in Kings Beach that we're looking at for affordable housing, but we always are looking at other properties as well. We also have the Hopkins Village project. This is 40 units, they're half-plexes that are up by North Star, and this is deed restricted for local workers at meeting the median income requirement of 100%, 180%, I should say, of the area median income. We also have Gateway Commons, so as part of providing that funding for the sewer improvements, we secured a deed restriction to 150% or less of the median income and these are 26 half-plex units. We also have a number of policy and code updates. So the first is an amendment to the Chapter 15 of the Placer County Code. This is related to the Affordable Housing and Employee Accommodation Ordinance. So as part of that, all projects are required to meet some sort of affordable housing through either the construction of affordable housing or paying their in lieu fee. This incentivizes the creation of housing by creating essentially a credit program. So if a project overbuilds their number of required units for affordable housing, they can sell those credits to another project. So it doesn't create an incentive if someone has an affordable housing obligation, they can actually overbuild and then sell those credits to another project. We also have amendments related to our subdivision, related to Senate Bill 9. This is tying back to our existing standards related to sewer, water, access, so that when these lot splits come in, we can point back to those standards and ensure that these proposed lot splits are meeting those county requirements. These will be brought forward in July of 2022. We're also always pursuing funding opportunities. We are applying for a little over $1 million for the state's Community Development Block Grant, also known as CDBG. This is related to our first-time homebuyer assistance program. We're applying for some planning program dollars as well for the Placer County Government Center, and then also a home hardening program for low-income households in our wildland urban interface as well. We're also applying for additional funding through the state's own program called CalHome. We submitted an application for a little under $800,000. We weren't successful in this round, and so as part of that, what we are doing is trying to be the first county designated as a pro-housing designated community. And what this means for us is we get additional points towards the funding of other applications. So this includes any housing grants we apply for or any other transportation grants as well. So we submitted an application back in November of 2021. We've been working with the state on this application, and we're hoping in the coming weeks that we'll have some good news regarding that application.
Did you say we're the first county to get it?
We are hoping to be the first county,
I see.
yes. So the first designation was the city of Sacramento. We're hoping to be the first county. We also partnered with San Jose State University and submitted an application for a National Civic Innovation Challenge grant. So this would be an initial grant of $50,000 for wildfire preparedness. And so we have innovative fire mapping tools that we'll use to kind of plan for fire in our at-risk communities. And so this would be in partnership with the university. So beyond that, we also work on housing legislation and understanding how it applies to our county. And so we have our fantastic Civic Spark Fellow, Maeve Robinson, who has been tracking that. And so she'll be able to give you a quick update on some of the legislation that's been coming down from the state.
All right, good morning. Once again, my name is Maeve Robinson. I'm the Civic Spark Fellow serving with Placer County this year. And today I'll be going through some housing legislation highlights from the 2021 legislation session. So just to provide some background information, back in September, Governor Newsom signed a package of affordable housing bills into law, all of which have taken effect as of this year. And really the aim of these new bills was to streamline new housing development, remove barriers to build more affordable housing, create equitable housing, and hold local governments accountable. So I believe you should have received a California Housing Law fact sheet that we put together that kind of details 17 laws that are really of particular interest to Placer County. I'll just be running through a handful today, but if you were interested in learning a bit more about each of those bills, you can reference that fact sheet. And this is just a graphic that was summarizing the bills that were passed during the 2021 legislative session. So starting out with Senate Bill 9, looks like a couple slides got moved around. So I'll just kind of go off my own knowledge here. But So Senate Bill, actually, I think we have the ones here. Okay, so Senate Bill 9 requires local governments to grant ministerial or by right approvals of urban lot splits and duplex developments on single-family zone properties. So there are a couple eligibility requirements that go along with that. So first and foremost, the site has to be zoned single-family. It has to be wholly within the boundaries of an urbanized area or urban cluster. That would be defined by the U.S. Census. The site can't be a historic landmark or historic district. It can't alter or demolish any existing affordable housing or housing that's been occupied by a tenant in the last 3 years. And then finally, it can't have an adverse impact on public health and safety or on the physical environment. So there are a couple of additional requirements that go with actually developing the duplexes and splitting lots. So for duplex developments, the development cannot demolish more than 25% of the existing exterior walls of an existing dwelling, unless that site has not been occupied by a tenant in the last 3 years. 1 parking space will be required per unit, unless that site is within a half mile from a high-quality transit corridor or within a block of a car share location. And then finally, any dwelling unit that is created under SB 9 may not be used for short-term rentals less than 30 days. And in terms of splitting lots, the split lots do have to be approximately equal size, so 40-60 minimum, and each lot has to be at least 1,200 square feet. Obviously, the lot cannot have been previously split under SB 9. The lot owner nor anyone acting together with the owner can split adjacent lots. Land use obviously has to be residential. And then finally, the applicant must sign an affidavit stating that they intend to live in one of the units for 3 years. The exception being that applicant is a qualified nonprofit or community land trust. I'm going to go to this slide first. But looking at a couple laws that focus on incentives for housing production, AB 803, or the Starter Home Revitalization Act, allows multifamily properties to subdivide into the number of units allowed for on the property. And this is really to make it easier to develop smaller, more affordable homes like townhomes. And then AB 978 creates tenant protections for mobile homes. So it creates a rental cap and eviction protection for mobile home users, and also establishes a maximum annual increase of inflation as well. SB 10 is focused on 10plexes, so it simplifies the rezoning process for land with up to 10 homes per lot. So under SB 10, local governments are able to adopt an ordinance that allows up to 10 dwelling units on any parcel, as long as that parcel is within a transit-rich area or urban infill site, as defined by California law. ADUs and JDUs do not count towards that 10-unit threshold. And also rezoning under SB 10 will be exempt from environmental review under the California Environmental Quality Act. It does not apply, however, to very high fire severity zones or parcels that are on an open space park or recreational land. Going back to these laws that are addressing systemic bias in housing, I'll start with AB 721, and that one is focused on discrimination and recorded covenants. So it makes recorded covenants that limit residential development unenforceable when it comes to qualifying affordable housing developments. And then finally, AB 1304, which is focused on affirmatively furthering fair housing. So affirmatively furthering fair housing means that local governments that receive federal grant dollars need to take meaningful action to overcome segregation and foster inclusive communities. Some 2018 legislature was already passed that required local governments to administer these programs, but AB 1304 reforms these requirements and also provides some additional guidance by stating that local governments now need to, 1, require housing element site inventories to identify sites needed to meet the AFFH requirement, and to also analyze the relationship of these sites to their AFFH duty. So this is a map from the 2021 to 2029 Placer County housing element, focusing on opportunity areas within the county. So for affirmatively furthering fair housing, we'd want those housing developments to be, affordable housing developments to be focused more in those high and highest resource areas of the county rather than just targeting the kind of low and moderate in order to really foster those inclusive communities that AB 1304 is talking about. All right, so that concludes our presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions regarding housing laws, and Devin and Ann are available as well. We hope this was a beneficial update for you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners?
I have a question. Slide 50, would you mind going back? Is there a target per year you're trying to reach before, I think it's 2029, you said?
Yeah, so the regional housing needs allocation does not have a yearly target. Generally speaking, progress towards that target is evaluated by the state in relationship to some streamlining, particularly with SB 35. So generally, there needs to be some demonstrated progress, but the targets are evaluated for the 8-year cycle. And this is because housing projects can take time.
Right.
So some years there will be a number of affordable housing projects that come online, and then other years there might not be, depending where they are in the pipeline.
Do you have any SB 35 projects going right now?
No,
Okay, and same with 330?
I do not believe there has been an SB 330 application that is.
There was an application, but it's no longer in play.
Okay.
Another question, what happens if you don't meet the targets? What are the penalties, the consequences?
So the current penalties for not meeting these targets are affordable housing gets streamlined review. So that would be reduced ability to deny a permit or impose conditions. Other than that, the more kind of serious would be HCD looking at decertifying a jurisdiction's housing element. And that, generally speaking, is when a jurisdiction is not completing its stated policies and programs that it set.
Has that ever happened to your knowledge, that somebody got decertified?
There have been cases in which HCD has sent letters that I know of stating that a jurisdiction is not in compliance with their housing element. I would have to get back to you on if the state has ever decertified a housing element.
Thank you.
Do the applicants have to work in Placer County to live in these residences in Placer County?
Is this related to what?
Well, if we're building houses in Placer County, affordable housing, is it required that they work in Placer County?
So for affordable housing developments, there is no requirement that there is no like area requirement. That's a HUD requirement.
Okay.
So affordable housing units usually have federal dollars attached, so there aren't location requirements.
I didn't think so, but I just thought I'd ask. Thank you.
I have comments, not questions.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah.
appropriate? I just want to commend Placer County and your entire team for being in the forefront of doing affordable housing needs the right way and quickly. It takes a long, I've been in the development building world my entire career, and this project, this lovely project right next door to us is fantastic, and I look forward to seeing many more like that. And I know on the eastern slope we have difficulties in finding properties, and the work that you've done and the people I've spoken with up there are really appreciative of everything that you've been doing for us up there. And I just wanted to commend you and say thank you, and anything I can do to help and assist you in finding and locating properties or whatever you need, I'm available. But great job.
Well, let's go, we'll bring you guys back up if there are more questions. I'm going to open up public comment at this time, and we can listen to what the public has to say. So anyone, I don't think there's anyone here from the public, so we'll transition to online. Anyone online wish to speak on this item? No. Okay, we'll go ahead and close public comment. And we'll bring it back to the commission for discussion or more feedback. We can bring up the presenters if we need to. There's no action on this item. And so we're just giving feedback, thanking them for their great presentation. Excellent job. But other comments?
I would say let's just keep moving forward and keep making sure we help do affordable housing for our community. And I probably should have waited for this moment in time
That's okay.
for my comments, but really, I can't appreciate enough. I work with several counties and jurisdictions, and we're rocking it, so keep it up.
I think I'll just add that we know that interest rates are rising or have risen. And it's interesting to see how that will affect affordable housing in particular. And I just want to thank you for your presentation. Very well done. My hope is that, you know, we meet these goals, we start building in these areas, and that it pencils for developers. Ultimately, there needs to be an incentive to build all these levels. And I think we're feeling some of the weight of that with these percentages of where we've accomplished. So thank you very much for your presentation. At this point, I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.